welcome to the show where we share the stories of the many who intersect with our healthcare system but are rarely heard from. My name is Kevin Pho, founder and editor of KevinMD. Today in the show, we have Tomi Mitchell. She is a family physician in Canada, and she wrote the KevinMD article, "Who Needs Scientists? It's Not Like We Listen to Them Anyway." Tomi, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
We'll get into your article in a little bit, but first off, can you share your story and journey to where you are today?
I am a family physician, and I have been for over a decade now. And I was one of those people that were, very optimistic. I went into medicine because I wanted to make an impact on people, and I felt family medicine would help me make the biggest impact on myself and my future family. So family medicine was the right choice. And ironically enough, in 2019, 2020, family medicine saved my life again and my daughter's life. But we can maybe get back to that later. I, did emergency med, did deliveries, did the full family medicine scope from conception to end of life care. And I eventually burnt out. Go figure. Running 2 businesses by myself and then having 2 young kids. And that really made me stop and really think, okay, where do I really want to be in my life? And how much have I diverted from my original goal? And one of my original goals was to make an impact on the lives of as many people as possible, as in get in front of a large audience, specifically women, and also for social justice concerns. So I really had to stop, pause, take a break from work, and just say, look, what do I want with my life? I've given this chunk of my life, a third of it, to medicine. What do I want for the rest of it? And I made some really hard decisions. And I can honestly say I'm happier now and more confident than I have been my entire adult life.
Now, when you said that you felt burnt out from clinical medicine, what specific feelings were you feeling at that time?
I felt taken for granted. I felt as a primary care, you are at the bottom of the totem pole, but you also have the foundation of care in North America and Canada. The paperwork was extremely exhausting with the EMR and the nitpickers who work in offices and can say, nyeh, 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 but they're not the one actually looking at what you're doing and saving lives. The pandemic really was one that was it for me. I was like, really? We dedicate our lives and we sacrifice our families, special times for lip service. Because honestly, that healthcare hero stuff was lip service. Because I'm pretty sure the majority of people were saying frontliners, thank you, thank you, thank you. But look at it, fast forward now, a year and a half later, of the majority doing the right thing for the greater good of society, the answer is an overwhelming no. And that is why we're here right now. And as a mama bear, I am a mama bear. I am also fiery when it comes to my cubs. They are risking my cubs' future and the next generation. So I feel it's my obligation to use my privilege as a physician to speak the truth, because I really don't care. I have no political affiliation. I don't care. Like, after 10 years of being in medicine, you've had everything hurled at you from patients' comments and dealing with coworkers and just insurance and the whole 9 yards. So I'm like, what are you going to do now? I've experienced enough, but I'm not going to stand idle and watch science and the world we know of disappear. Because Dr. Pho, when I was in 5th grade, I remember the teachers talking about global warming. And like I said, I'm a nerd. I listen to everything. I take it literally. Teachers like, okay, in 2020 or 20, whatever, this is going to happen and this is going to happen. And then fast forward 20 years later, I am living that reality. And I'm like, okay, you knew that then. Why are we here? Why is Louisiana, New Orleans underwater? Why are people dying? Why have there been so many flash floods that I can't even remember? Why are there so many fires? Why is there so much famine? Like, what is this? But we were told, but what happened? Politics, short-term goals for election. Is it a long-term?
Now, the situation described certainly is relevant to those of us in the United States, where, of course, COVID and the pandemic has been heavily politicized.
Yes.
What's the situation like in Canada?
Canada is like your long lost cousin, Americans. I've lived in the US, so I've experienced life in like the South, Northeast, New Jersey, and traveled as well as Canada. Canada is no different. We have our own issues. We definitely have our deep-seated ignorance. It is very political here, at least in the Western side, where politics is put before kids' lives. And, mandates are often, actually where I am right now, there is no mandate whatsoever. There's not even a mandate that you have to get tested. There's no mandate to actually isolate if you test positive. There's no mask mandate. There's no social distancing mandate. There's a lot of BS. And it's like, okay, you can't mandate these basic measures. However, you can mandate a 3-month global shutdown, which tanked one of my businesses, right? Because it was not essential. So I'm like, it doesn't make sense. It's a huge disconnect, and I see it, and I'm calling it BS for what it is. So Canada is no different. We are just as ignorant, and I think love of science is waning. There are really few people, and they can be in high positions. I'm not going to call names, but I can go back to university and think of my study of virology and all this stuff. Bacteria and viruses specifically act pretty much the same. They need a host to reproduce, right? And vaccines have worked the same. It doesn't mean that you're like a Superman. It just means that your body knows how to fight it. At least it will try based on your pre-existing conditions and the care you can get. So why are we acting like this is something different? Like, why was masks at the beginning? They say, oh, masks are not effective. Then why do surgeons wear masks? Like, it was beyond stupid. When the CDC lifted the mask mandate, I was like, really? Political? Yeah, really, go around with your mask. I kept mine on because I know better. I know science. It hasn't changed. It's just people are losing faith because they've lived so long in the world where science has protected them, and now they are too proud and, frankly, too selfish.
So let's talk about that KevinMD article where you delve deeper into this topic. It's
sure.
titled, Who Needs Scientists? It's not like we listen to them anyway. Now, for those who didn't get a chance to read that article, can you just walk my audience through it and share the story of why you decided to write it?
Yeah, it's kind of a satire. I start off like saying, who needs science? Fake science. Like, so what? Half the world is like burning up. It's just fake. It's just a fluke. And then I talk about COVID and, those fear mongers that, fake Fauci and blah, blah, blah. But basically, I'm mocking the situation. And I look back at the oaths we made as physicians and the allegiance to the flag and everything else that everyone else did. But this is a disalignment. I'm keeping my oath. They're not keeping their basic allegiance. Where is brotherly love? Where is looking out for each other? Where is for the greater good of humanity? And I connect with people in the States, and I've had some even reach out to me who've been like threatened, and people have been totally ignorant. I was like, I live in the sticks. There's really no one here, so I can deal with their ignorance. I will use my protected place to continue to sound the alarm, because if we don't act, we are almost as bad as those who are the ones doing the wrong. We cannot be complacent when something wrong is happening, and this is happening on a global scale. We got to do something. And think about this. How many physicians, healthcare providers are leaving the field? I was one of them. After a decade of sacrificing myself, coming back to work a week after having a baby on 2 occasions, including near-death experiences, I was dedicated. But I'm not saying everyone should be like me, but come on, people. It's a mask. It's called ignorance. And ignorance is in all places, from the top officials to the people that think they have, like they go to the school of Facebook and Google and Reddit. They're like experts. They're like injecting themselves with bleach and ivermectin. They're swallowing dewormers because that's scientific. Like, come on. And what happens, y'all who are listening, when we all leave? Who's going to look after you when you come in for a heart attack, a motor vehicle accident, where you have a traumatic experience during childbirth and your doctor is not there, or those that are there learned in a pandemic and they didn't learn those skills because they were behind a mask and closed door. They've lost hands-on experience, and that is key. So it's not just now, it's the next generation looking after you. The next generation looking after you if you have the misfortune of ending up in a senior's home.
Why do you think that science has been disrespected, and why so many people now are against expertise in science?
That's a great question. Science has actually been, I think, disrespected for a long time. Since vaccines made a huge recovery, eradicated polio, measles, etc., people got complacent. Their friends were not in iron lungs. People weren't losing arms and legs. Life was good, right? So then there was a gradual erosion of society to this, you can't tell me what to do society. How dare you tell me what to do? And the other thing, and people in high power, they're often people with no science background, no real background. They just got in because they knew somebody or they slept with somebody or something. And that is the truth. People who have real knowledge are pushed away or muzzled. And we know it. Because there are so many amazing people I hear in the back channels, and I even see on the media, but are often pushed down. I'm like, wow, if only you could represent this. If only you could be the face without worrying about the aftermath of ignorance and bipartisanship and everything else that's coming. As America, you are considered the greatest country in the world. As a kid, I grew up in the UK thinking America was the greatest country in the world. Now I'm questioning it. And that's sad because you guys have the capacity to do amazing things. Your hospital systems, when you have insurance, are next to none. We Canadians look at you with adoration. We send our patients to Mayo, Cleveland Clinic, okay, Boston. Like, your system is, when you have it together, your system is superior. The care you can receive is superior. What are you doing about it?
We're talking to Tomi Mitchell. She's a family physician in Canada, and she wrote the KevinMD article, Who Needs Scientists? It's not like we listen to them anyway. Tomi, what's the answer here? How do you reach out to those who have an aversion to science or are disrespecting scientists and other physicians and clinicians? What's their answer to reach out to these people?
I'm being honest, I just don't see us truly reaching out to them. Some people are so far gone in themselves. Until they hit rock bottom, this will continue. This madness will continue. So I just buckle my seatbelt and I embrace my family for what is to come. Some will switch, but you got to remember, the virus wants to stay alive. Like all living viruses, they need a host. Then what happens? They get caught, vaccine, antigens. They're like, okay, we got to mutate. That way they're not going to know who we are. So COVID is smart. It's mutating. So our vaccine was made for the original SARS, COVID-2, whatever it was called. And now we have Alpha, Delta, whatever will come down the pipeline. I'm sorry, but I honestly think society's at the point where it's going to hit rock bottom. And we're going to feel it like the rest of the world has been feeling for decades, because they already felt rock bottom. They're already starving. They're begging for vaccines. And we're having to pay people to get vaccinated for free.
Should we stop reaching out to people who don't believe in
science? We got to continue, but it has to come from top down. But honestly, I'm hoping it's not too late. That's the truth. I truly think COVID will be here for the rest of our lives. Maybe it will be like with the flu vaccine and H1N1 and everything else. But we just have to scientists, keep on doing your thing. You know what? You have made a huge impact in our lives. And forget the naysayers. But as a collective community, physicians, frontline workers, nurses, scientists, concerned parents, we need to make our voice louder than the ignorance. And remember this, even if your governor says you can't have a max mandate, you can still wear one as an individual. It's your choice.
And my final question, what's your take-home message you want to leave with the KevinMD audience?
I love the world we live in, and that's the only world we have. Let's do our best to maintain it, because we already know the writing is on the wall. The rate at which national disasters are occurring is staggering. I have become an empath, and truly my heart breaks when I hear of stories of little boys, like twins, I think in the South, 7-month-old babies drowned, like the last flood. I can't even keep up with it. It's becoming so normal. It's become the norm. We don't want to be jaded. So listen up, do your best, social distance, wash your hands. And honestly, so what? Your auntie's going to be mad at you if you talk about vaccine. What's the worst she's going to do? Or your mom or your daddy? What's the worst? Okay, make the right choice.
Tomi, thank you so much for sharing your time and insight.
My pleasure.
Thanks again for being on the show.